Juja.
It's a beautiful thing.
Are we doing a podcast now? We're
I
podcasters. I guess we're podcasters. This is just doing a podcast with little or no preparation.
We've been preparing our whole lives. I mean, you have your PhD.
At some point, yeah.
This is why you got
This
it.
is, I guess, yeah, this is unscripted. Eventually we'll start doing scripts and stuff and have a specific topic. But we don't have a working title agreed upon either, but something about mathematics and turning around the attitude of the general population and the average person and their attitude towards mathematics.
And there will be cats as well.
There'll be a bunch of cats and
He's
music.
got 5 of them.
We're going to do math and music and cats. Cat math is my favorite. I like on the Bear from local Edmonton, they do cat math where you phone in and you say what you describe yourself and then he guesses how many cats you have. I'm a single and I live by myself and then he says you have 4 cats. It's like 5. We have 5 cats. Only because we lost her little brother Ringo, didn't we? I know. Otherwise we'd have had 6. So this is Alice. I'm Adrian. That's Lorenzo. The 2 people speaking will be Adrian and Lorenzo. The cats will talk.
Sometimes they
might pipe in.
Yeah.
But at first we're supposed to probably pick specific topics that we're going to do, but we're going to do anything from math and science and music and video games, etc. But for today,
classic video games, of course.
Classic video games. Yeah. I'm a boomer. Technically not. I'm just out of that one. I'm a
Gen X.
Gen X.
Yeah.
I am old enough to where I don't care about what the label is. I don't know why people started labeling themselves, but I just watched the thing. They had it broken down into dates, which is bull crap. It's something from 1969 or something like this, roughly to 1980.
Yeah, mid-60s to 1980 or something.
Is Gen X, and then what's the millennials is after that?
It was Gen
80,
Y,
81.
but then it became millennials. And that was like 20 years up until 2000.
Because X, Y, Z, and then that's why they did Gen Z, and then the new one's going to be Gen Alpha. Everybody's just an alpha male.
Greek?
You're already a Chad. You're just born a Chad. Yeah! I'm misogynistic out the gate. But, which is crazy because it's just boxing people. My brother's born in 81 and I'm born in 78. So you're telling me I'm Gen X and he's a millennial.
Or millennial,
It's like, I know.
Became millennial.
We're only 3 years apart. So we're both a generation. Go fuck yourselves to stop labeling me as some kind of weird name.
We can swear on this podcast, can we not?
I'm not sure. I'll try to keep it to a minimum.
Oh, I get the cat. Yes.
Once it's Friday and we've had...
Come back, kitty. Love me.
No.
Oh, it's gone.
Plugged in the mini fridge so we can have cold beer down here, and now she's just messing with all the bottles in the pocket.
There she goes. There's the tap, tap, tap,
tap. Tap, tap, tap.
Off.
So basically, I guess
math,
what we were talking about is just trying to get the attitude towards... now I'm trying to look at text and stuff as I
We're
try
recording.
To do the podcast. We're recording. Just put that shit down. All right. The neighbor wants a drink. It's Friday night, so it's only going to take 15 minutes. But the story goes where I stole this from someone else who stole it from someone more clever than me. But the strange paradigm that we see in society from mathematical or scientific point of view is if you're at a party and you started talking about, again, if you look at me, especially when you get the tattoos and that kind of stuff, if you guess, it's reverse, if you guess what my job is, and I was going to say mathematician, that's probably going to be what you guess last as my occupation, possibly. But then when you find out I'm a mathematician, immediately they're like, what's the first thing out of people's mouth? I hate math, or I don't like math, or I'm not good at it. But then just rephrase that as like, I'm not good at math. I can't even do basic. I stopped doing that. But if you rephrase that into, you're talking about, I'm an English teacher. You're like, oh, that reading and writing stuff, I don't do that kind of stuff. So it's like, why is it like, who would go around trumpeting to the world that they can't even read and write or do basic
it wouldn't be socially acceptable.
English skills, but it's totally socially acceptable to say that I don't do math and I hate math and I don't do these types of things.
There's a math for you.
And I did it last semester I was working at the U of A, so I'm walking down one of the main roads right in front of the university hospital, and there was a guy that has a shirt that says "I hate math" on it. So then I walked up and I was like, "I disagree. I like math, and I'm a math teacher." And I just walked away, and his face was just like, "Yeah." So they just can't compute that. This is just from our point of view, a totally strange phenomenon that you could be totally derisive towards mathematics and science and those types of things, but would you ever claim to not know how to do basic reading and writing and those types of things? So it might be basic math, but you're built in with, according to Noam Chomsky, you're built in with a universal grammar.
Yeah.
You are not built in with a universal mathematics. So of course the mathematical and this algebra stuff that we cook up is going to be much more difficult at first than learning how to read and write. But it's a necessary tool, and I don't see how you could survive in the modern world without knowing at least basics about mathematics.
And a lot of it is far more intuitive than you think, really. Like, especially with geometry.
The follow up to that is they say that, and their follow up statement when you try to push, when you start saying what I pointed out, that it's not acceptable to say you don't like it. The second half of their story, almost 100% of the time, is it's because of the instructor that they had or someone that they interacted with. So they've just been teaching mathematics the wrong way. And unfortunately, it's the cliche of we're doomed to live lives forwards but only understand it backwards.
Yeah.
And so in mathematics, this comes to the forefront. We sit there and do all the basic examples and do the brute force and look at a bunch of cases, and we're like, oh, look, when you put this number in and it works out this way, and if you put 2 in it works out in that formula. And then we say, oh, let's generalize that and say for every n this thing works. And by the time we work that out in the math textbooks, we just state that as a theorem and then prove it and then do a couple examples. But that's not how you do math. You do the examples, you try to generalize, you check to be like, oh, that worked out clever. Let's see if that works out again. And it did work. It worked out in this case. Let's see if it works out in all cases. And then you state a theorem and show how it works. And unfortunately, this is not how math textbooks are written. They're written as theorem, lemma, proof, theorem, lemma, proof, theorem, lemma, proof, example, theorem, lemma, proof, theorem, lemma, proof, and then it just becomes so, it's like legalese or sciencese.
Don't forget corollary.
Yeah, corollaries.
Yeah.
So what are these? A theorem. A lemma is something that's mundane but necessary required in the proof of a main statement, which we call a theorem or proposition. And then a corollary is something that falls out immediately as a consequence of the previous statement. And scholium is the other one that Sir Isaac Newton uses in the Principia Mathematica, and that one didn't catch on because those are things he's like, I think this is true, but I don't have a proof. So conjecture is what he's getting at. There's a difference between making a conjecture a theorem. A conjecture is a theorem without a proof. So we don't know whether it's true. The Riemann hypothesis is one of these famous millennial conjectures. The distribution of the primes lie on this magic line in the complex real line, whatever they're getting into the details. But there's a statement about where all the roots of this Riemann zeta function lie, and they all lie on the same line. And they've checked it for thousands of cases, but until we get a rigorous proof, it doesn't become a true theorem. Eventually, hopefully, it will be Riemann's theorem, not Riemann's conjecture or hypothesis.
What other millennium problems are there, and which of them have been solved?
I don't even know. There was 10 that David Hilbert put down. I can't remember which ones they have. I know they solved the Poincaré conjecture.
Right,
was the one where he famously gave up the $1 million, and the Russian guy, Perlman, is still living in his mom's basement in Russia somewhere, and he's just a school teacher.
Right on.
Yeah. I think some of the ones left are the Hodge conjecture, which I have a book by one of the guys at the U of A that comes the Hodge conjecture. Doesn't matter.
There are a lot of books.
The ABC conjecture, the P versus NP.
Right. Goldbach? Is that one? Is that a millennium?
That's not a millennial.
Oh, it's not a millennium.
The Yang-Mills conjecture, I think. There's only 4 or 5 left. I think quite a few of them have been solved since then.
What about, so has Goldbach's conjecture been solved? Has there been a proof for that?
Which is Goldbach's conjecture. Goldbach's conjecture isn't the same one you're thinking about. I think he phrased it this way. I think you're thinking of the twin prime conjecture. Goldbach's conjecture is that every even number can be written as the sum of 2 primes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But I think he also phrased in simple terms, are there infinitely many twin prime pairs? What's a twin prime? A twin prime is 2 primes that are separated by one even integer. So 3 and 5. and 5 and 7. And in fact, 3 and 5 and 7 are the only prime triplet. Because if you try to take any other three numbers that are odd that way, one of them has to be divisible by 3, you can show.
These are just some of the things we're going to be talking
So
about.
3, 5, 7 is the unique prime triplet. 3 and 5 and 7 are separated only by 4 and 6, but there are no other prime triplets in that order. But it seems like there are infinite many twin primes separated by 1. 3 and 5 are separated by 4. 5 and 7 are separated by 6. 11 and 13 are separated by 12. 17 and 19 are separated by 18 only. And then you can keep going 29 and 31. And what's the next one? 41, 43.
Yep, yeah.
59 and 61. There's a whole, I think there's a TED talk on that where there's a poem about this when he's talking about this. And then he also phrases in that poem, he references the 101 Dalmatians. 101 is prime. 102 Dalmatians is separating 103 Dalmatians. 101 and 103 is a twin prime pair, separated only by 102. So 59 and 61 are a twin prime. And so the conjecture is, are there infinite many of those? As you keep going out, are there more and more of these pairs of primes? And so far, we may believe that it's what Gödel shows in any axiomatic set. There are questions that you can raise that you can't prove to be true, and you can't prove them to be untrue, which we call undecidable statements in that axiomatic system. And maybe the twin prime conjecture or the Goldbach conjecture are an example of this. You can phrase it quite simply to a grade schooler. Can you find in the first 100 integers how many of those primes are twin prime pairs? You can list them all up to the last one, I think, is what, 71, 73? Because in the 80s, the only primes are 83 and 89, I think. And then 97, Connor McDavid beats out Wayne Gretzky. Not in skill, only in his number, because 97 is the last two-digit prime. And 99 is 3 times 3 times 11. But other than that. So this is, you can see where the tangents can go real fast. This is what we're going to spend several hours talking about on any given day when we do these. But
join us.
This is the magic of mathematics, the fact that, especially in number theory, you can phrase mathematical statements which are, for all intents and purposes, you can explain it to a 5-year-old or your grandma. Einstein says if you can't explain it to your grandma, you don't really know what you're talking about.
Right.
I think that's Grandma Lives Matters. That's kind of derisive towards grandmas, like they don't know anything. But I can explain it to a 5-year-old that here's what a prime number is. Here's what a twin prime number is. It seems like there's a whole bunch of them. Do they keep going? And we can prove that there are infinitely many. Euclid in his 13 elements, everybody pictures geometry, but he did a lot of algebra in there too, and he did perfect numbers, and he gave proofs of how to generate perfect numbers and these types of things from Mersenne primes we were talking about earlier in our live stream about
look us up on Twitch.
Yeah, Mersenne primes, Twitch and YouTube, the Tutor Wizard.
Yeah.
But once we have this easy phrasing about what these so there are infinitely many primes is also, so the primes don't end inside the integers. So if you look at the set of integers 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way up to it never ends. We wanted to know first, are there infinitely many prime numbers? And yes, Euclid gives a clever reductio ad absurdum argument. Assume you have a complete list of the finite list of prime numbers. We'll multiply all those primes together and then add 1. That number now is neither a prime nor a composite, which contradicts their lemma, which says that every integer has to be either a prime or a composite of primes. So Euclid shows that there has to be an unending list of prime numbers in amongst all of the integers. This is Riemann's hypothesis, where we don't know what the distribution is. Where are the prime numbers distributed amongst the integers? This is essentially the core of the Riemann hypothesis. We don't know that either. But then the twin prime conjecture says, now that we know there's an infinite many primes and we don't know where they are distributed among them, are these twin primes that will keep, I have to learn how to do mirror image. I'm looking at, am I looking in a mirror or am I looking in an anti-mirror? Is this an anti-mirror or a mirror? It's an anti-mirror. It's an anti-mirror. Freaking anti-mirror. It's like anti-soft locks. But, so we know there's infinitely many integers. We know there's infinitely many prime integers. We don't know where they're distributed amongst the integers, the primes. But we know and see a lot of these twin primes. So are there infinitely many twin primes? That's a fairly easy statement to phrase.
Not easy to
For
prove.
hundreds of years, the top mathematicians of every society or of our species in general has been trying to figure this out, and so far, no answer yet. So, if you want,
Tune in and hopefully we'll
one of these days on
discuss an answer.
podcast 747, we're going to prove that there are infinitely many twin primes.
Yeah.
If we do, we'll be much more famous than you think. We won't be podcasting anymore. Maybe he will.
We'll still be podcasting. All right, thanks.
So yeah, the ramblings of an insane person who doesn't get out much. But once you let me come
The
into
math takes up too much time.
but now you can come into my basement every week.
Join us for mathematics of some sort, whatever we decide to call it.
Math and junk, whiz biz. I don't know.
Yeah.
I keep
What
trying to come up with silly names, and he keeps trying to come
No,
up
no,
with
bridging
sophisticated,
mathematics.
coming up with sophisticated names, and then
Alright.
eventually in there we'll do. I'll practice, and then we'll do Mario songs on the ukulele and stuff like that too.
See you next time,
See you next
everybody.
time.